My name is Vroka Suun. I am a war correspondent for the Galactic Press Collective, and I have covered 17 interstellar conflicts across 9 star systems. I have watched civilizations fall. I have watched species beg. I have, on one particularly memorable occasion, watched an entire fleet of Deruvian warships scatter like startled insects because someone accidentally broadcast an opera recording on the enemy's battle frequency. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened when the Grand Coalition declared war on the humans. Let me take you back to the day it started. The Grand Coalition Council Chamber on Valor's Prime. 342 elected representatives from across the known galaxy sat in magnificent hover chairs, dressed in ceremonial robes, all wearing the very specific expression of beings who were absolutely certain they were about to do something brilliant. High Chancellor Dorvac Pell stood at the podium. He was a tall, six-limbed Vethrani with a voice like rolling thunder and the political instincts of a very ambitious rock. The human species, he announced, spreading all 6 arms wide for dramatic effect, has refused to surrender the KO corridor. They have ignored our warnings. They have disrespected this council. And so, today, we do not merely send message. Today, we send a war. The chamber erupted in applause. Delegates stamped their feet, their claws, their hooves, and whatever other appendages were available for stamping. General Prexyvon, the coalition's supreme military commander, nodded from his seat with the quiet confidence of a being who had already written the victory speech and had it engraved on a plaque. I was sitting in the press gallery, scribbling notes and quietly eating a bag of Yelvan seeds. I remember thinking one very simple thought. Someone should warn them. But nobody warns anyone in politics. That is not how politics works. The war declaration was transmitted to Earth at 0600 Standard Galactic Time. The coalition gave the humans 72 hours to comply or face an orbital bombardment the likes of which had not been seen since the siege of Merrick 7. The response from Earth arrived in 41 minutes. 41 minutes. Not 42. Not 72 hours. 41 minutes, which, for context, appears to be the exact amount of time it takes for a human to read a war declaration, laugh about it with colleagues, find someone with authority, pull that person out of the meeting, and draft an official response. The response was delivered by a human diplomat named Sable Morrow. She appeared on the transmission screen, wearing what I can only describe as deeply unbothered business attire. She was holding a cup of something hot, and she spoke with a calm that I still find medically concerning. "We received your declaration," she said. "We have a few questions." She raised one finger. "First, are you aware of how many of our ships are currently operating inside your sector?" A second finger. "Second, has anyone in this council actually looked at our military budget during the last decade?" A third finger. And third, who authorized this? Because whoever it was, we would very much like to have a conversation. She took a slow sip of her drink. Then she added, casually, as if discussing a delayed shipment, "We will give you 72 hours to reconsider. After that, Admiral Dex Harlan will handle communications." She paused. "You probably do not want that." The transmission ended. The chamber remained silent for a very long time. Then someone looked up the human military budget. Then someone else pulled up the last recorded positions of human vessels across the outer sectors. Then General Prexyvon, the man who had already prepared his victory speech and engraved it on a plaque, stood up very slowly from his chair. He turned toward High Chancellor Dorvac Pell and spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Who is Admiral Dex Harlan?" Nobody knew, and somehow that was the most frightening sentence spoken in the chamber that morning. I quietly pulled out a fresh notebook, because I have covered 17 interstellar conflicts, and I know exactly what it looks like when a war is about to go very, very differently than planned. The humans had not panicked. They had not begged. They had not even raised their voices. They had asked 3 questions, finished a warm drink, and handed the problem to someone named Dex Harlan. Outside the great windows of the council chamber, the stars looked exactly the same as they always did. Cold, silent, impossibly distant. But somewhere, out there in the dark between worlds, something had already begun to move. And it was not moving away from us. The 72 hours passed. Not quietly. Nothing involving the Grand Coalition ever passes quietly. There were emergency sessions, heated debates, 17 separate proposals. 4 of them suggested simply apologizing. 1, submitted by Delegate Vroka of the Oshari Collective, proposed faking a technical malfunction and claiming the entire war declaration had been a clerical error. That last proposal came dangerously close to passing. But High Chancellor Dorvac Pell was a proud being, and proud beings do not fake clerical errors. Proud beings stand firm. Proud beings grip the podium, look into the cameras, and announce to the entire galaxy that the Coalition does not negotiate under pressure. And so, when the 72 hours expired and no surrender came from Earth, General Prex Yuvon gave the order to advance. 460 warships, the finest vessels the Coalition had ever assembled. Engines burned like small suns. Weapons were fully charged. Formations were tight, precise, and beautiful in the way that things are beautiful right before they stop existing. I was aboard the press vessel Undying Remark, positioned at what our captain, a nervous Vithrani named Asapello, called a tactically safe observational distance. What that meant in practical terms was simple. We were far enough away to watch everything unfold, and close enough that if things went wrong, it would not matter anyway. I had my notebook. I had a fresh supply of Yelvan seeds. I had, for reasons I still cannot fully explain, written a very short personal will that morning. The Coalition fleet exited faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kale Corridor at 0900 Standard Time, and the humans were already there. Not a few ships, not a patrol, not some symbolic show of force. They were already there. 712 vessels. They were arranged in a formation that our tactical analysts spent 4 full minutes studying before one of them, a young Druvian named Pax Real, spoke very quietly. That is not a defensive formation. He was correct. It was not defensive at all. Defensive formations say one thing. We are protecting something. What the humans had assembled said something entirely different. It said, we have been waiting. It said, we knew you were coming. It said, we had time to get comfortable. And perhaps most clearly of all, it said, you may want to reconsider your life choices. The Coalition fleet slowed. You could feel it, even aboard the press vessel. That collective hesitation, that moment when 460 warships full of soldiers all had the exact same thought at exactly the same time. That thought, in its many variations, sounded something like this. Oh, then Admiral Dex Harlan opened a communication channel. I had spent 2 full days trying to find information about this man. Our research team searched archives, cross-referenced databases, and contacted 3 different intelligence networks. What we found was a service record that read less like a biography and more like a warning label. 31 years in the human fleet, decorated 11 times, present in 9 major engagements. He had never lost one, not a single one. He appeared on screen, and I want to be very precise about this moment, because the image of Admiral Dex Harlan is now permanently etched into my memory in the same category usually reserved for traumatic experiences. He was a shorter human, gray hair, sharp eyes. His uniform looked like it had seen real use. He was not dramatic. He was not intimidating. If anything, he looked like a being who had been interrupted during breakfast and had decided to resolve the problem quickly so he could return to it. Coalition fleet, he said calmly, you are currently inside the Kale Corridor. I'm going to ask you once politely to turn around. I want to be clear about what happens if you do not. I'm not going to make a speech. I'm not going to count down from 10. You will simply discover the answer firsthand. And I genuinely do not recommend that. He paused. You have 90 seconds. He reached off screen. He picked up a cup. He took a slow drink. And he waited. Later reports from the Coalition flagship described the bridge as completely silent. General Prex Yuvon stood at the command platform, looking first at the 712 human warships, then at his own 460, then back again. He was performing the kind of mathematics that does not require a calculator. At the 82nd second, the Coalition fleet turned around. All 460 ships, silently, in perfect, humiliating unison. High Chancellor Dorvac Pell resigned the following morning. The victory plaque, I later learned, was quietly melted down and repurposed into a decorative fountain somewhere in the capital district. I sat in my chair aboard the undying remark, staring out the stars, and wrote one final sentence in my notebook. The humans never raised their voices. Not once. I have covered 17 interstellar conflicts. I have never written a more frightening sentence. The humans never raised their voices, and somehow that made it even more terrifying. Subscribe for more HFY stories.